Hello guys, Eli here from Nintendo Enthusiast. Welcome to the newest episode of The Pitch. Now, if you guys remember last week, I went over the Japanese sales first and then went on to reader mail. I felt like that was a little bit, I didn't like talking numbers right away, especially for something as standard as Japanese weekly numbers, so in the future I'm going to be beginning with either one or two reader questions, viewer questions, and then moving on to the sales data from Japan. That's going to be at the end of the video. However, we did get some big news. We got Nintendo's Q2 financial results, so I feel like that should be get a spotlight in this video. So first of all, I want to talk about software, because Tomodachi Life and Smash have both sold more than 3 million units. Now, Smash specifically wasn't included in their Q2 financials because it came out in October, and Nintendo's Q2 ended in the end of September, so it wasn't counted in the numbers in terms of how much money they made, but they told us anyway that Smash had sold more than 3 million. I think more impressive is the fact that Tomodachi Life has sold more than 3 million. It's such a niche game, in the Western market specifically, it has sold more than 1 million units, and that's huge. I mean, if this is such a niche title, it's so quirky, so weird, really. If you know, other companies might see this, we might start seeing some more titles getting localized from Japan. However, that's not necessarily fact. This might just be a game that's outside of the norm. For example, we got Conception 2, if you remember that little game, which came out earlier this year, and it had roughly about the same reviews, maybe a little lower, and I don't see any great successes for that in the West. That's just an example. Maybe it's because Tomodachi Life had a much better marketing campaign. That would make a lot of sense. I mean, you saw ads on Disney Channel and Cartoon Network and all these kids' networks. And so I think that really helped out Tomodachi Life. And I guess we learned a lesson that you can localize games from Japan that are super weird, super Japanese, but in the end, it really comes down to your marketing and whether it ends up being successful or not. Moving on to hardware sales, I want to talk about the Wii U, which sold 610,000 units in its second quarter. Now, of course, 610,000 units, it's good, but it's not amazing. It's 2 times as much as it sold second quarter last year. So from looking at that perspective, it's really good. However, if you add it up with the first quarter sales of the Wii U, altogether, the Wii U has sold 1.12 million units so far. Their goal is 3.6 million units. In order to reach that goal, Nintendo would need to sell 1.24 million units per quarter for the end of this year, so for the last quarter of this year, and then the fourth quarter technically is the beginning of next year. So they would have to sell more than they've sold in these 2 quarters combined. Now, of course, to be fair, there weren't really any big Nintendo releases considering Q2. I mean, you had Mario Kart in Q1, you had and then you had Hyrule Warriors in Q2. The big hitters are really coming in Q3. So we're going to see whether stuff like Smash and Bayonetta are going to be enough to sell 1.24 million units per quarter, because that's what Nintendo needs in order to meet their sales expectation. And just to be like 610,000 units per quarter is not very good on the large scheme of things. You know, extrapolate that to a 5-10 year period, and you're not getting very positive numbers for the Wii U in terms of how many millions it's going to sell over its lifetime. So it's nice to see them recovering. It's nice to see that they sold 2 times as many units as last time. However, it's not too cool to see the fact that they still might not be meeting their sales goal of a modest 3.6 million units, especially when Sony alone shipped 3.3 million PS4s. Now, that doesn't mean sold, but shipped last quarter. But the most positive news out of all of this is, although Nintendo did have a $2 million operating loss, they did make $131.5 million in net profit. So I guess in the end, it really doesn't matter how much software, how much hardware it's sold. What we're looking at is this net profit number. Now, some of you guys might be wondering, well, how did they lose money but actually make money? Well, Nintendo's kind of acting like a huge bank right now. The reason why they're making so much money is they have so much money in the bank that's, for example, collecting interest. Also, they've got these really surefire investments that they're making, and they're making money from those small little investments. So even though the company as a whole is quote-unquote losing money, in the end they're actually gaining money in the end, because they're collecting so much money from interest rates, and the exchange rate right now is the Japanese yen is pretty much really weak, so any money they make in the US translates to a lot of yen back at home. So it's really positive for Nintendo the fact that they made more than $100 million last quarter alone. You know, overall, we might see by the end of the year, they might be back to, of course, not Wii numbers, but they might make $500 million for all we know, which is really the most positive story of everything. That's my little sales analysis for these quarter 2 sales. So good for the Wii U, not amazing. Oh, but most importantly, I want to talk about, or not most importantly, but also important to talk about the 3DS, which is not selling amazing. It sold about 2 times less than it sold this period last year, and it's not amazing, but it's okay. Well, we know that the new 3DS is coming out, and there's only so much you could do. All right, so I want to move on to reader mail. TJ Gamer says, love your NPD video last week. Well, thank you. What is your opinion on Sonic Boom? It is the next game after Bayonetta 2. I'm going to be honest, it looks terrible. It played terrible at E3. So I'm guessing he's asking about sales potential, because that's what this show is about. I don't think it'll sell well on the Wii U. I think the 3DS version will do decently. The 3DS version is actually much better than the Wii U version from what I played. And overall, for example, we know that Sonic Lost World sold 710,000 units, despite getting not very good reviews. It didn't get very many good reviews, sold 700,000 units, which is really good for a game that got the reviews it got. Overall, I think we can kind of see that people will buy Sonic no matter what, but what platform are they going to buy it on? I'm sure most of those 700,000 units for Lost World probably came from the 3DS, just because the install base is so much larger. You can see so many systems where just the larger the install base, the more games it'll sell. Unless it's a launch, that's a different story. And I think that's significant, the fact that there are so many more 3DSs, that's probably going to help Sonic sales. And the other big thing is Lost World was mediocre by a lot of people, but it wasn't bad, and from what I played of Sonic Boom, it's bad. However, there is a little caveat. As we know, there's going to be a Sonic Boom TV show. And, you know, with licensed games, sometimes they end up doing really well because they're just licensed games. And if that's what Sonic's turning into, it might do well, because on the Sonic Boom TV show on Nickelodeon, you have 3 million kiddos watching it, and they advertise the game at the end of every episode. I'm going to say that the game will do pretty well if kids are liking the TV show. So that's, I think, the little caveat. If the game does very good with marketing on the TV show, I think it will sell decently. I think it'll sell well. Anyway, I think that'll wrap up the little question portion. We're gonna have more questions next week. It's just, of course, the sales analysis for the quarter 2 sales took up quite a bit of time. I finally want to touch up a little bit on the Japanese sales. The 3DS sold about another 100,000 units in last week in Japan, which is really good. The Wii U, on the other hand, sold 4,000 units. Once again, 3DS sold about 25 times what the Wii U sold. I mean, there's nothing to say at this point. It's just the Wii U's kind of taking there. Some weeks it does a little better. Most weeks it's something like this. But on the bright side, Tales of the World Revenutia, which is the new Tales game, it's exclusive to the 3DS, sold 50,000 units, which I guess is decent in Japan. But if a game like Tomodachi Life can sell really well in America, you know, who knows? We might see that Tales game come over, even though currently they have no plans, is what they've announced. Alright, I think that'll wrap up this episode of The Pitch. Thank you everyone for watching. Make sure to leave any questions you have in the comment section below. I'll be answering them in the coming weeks. I also have a few questions that I will already have ready for next week. This show is about 10 minutes, so as long as you guys have questions, I will answer them. If you guys enjoyed the show, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. We got tons of great shows. We got Sean's Week in Review. We got Jason's Indie Corner stuff. Wonderful stuff overall. Make sure to check out Nintendo Enthusiast.com as well. Thank you so much everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.